Hello and welcome back, goats, to the BigBluePurple channel. In this video, I want to talk about a piece of content in 14 that I've hardly engaged with at all, actually, until recently, being treasure map dungeons. Before I actually tried out these level 90 maps, the only experience I had with treasure maps in this game were the level 50 ones you have to do for the Zodiac weapon, like just the Alexandrite maps you have to spam over and over again. And so when I heard about Endwalker treasure maps, I never really cared or went out of my way to try them because I didn't actually know what kind of content was hidden in here. As it turns out, this is actually some pretty fucking fun content that I was sleeping on up until this point. If you're anything like me and don't really know much about treasure maps, let me run you through it. Basically, you can get these treasure maps through either gathering them yourself in the open world. If you have your gatherers leveled, you can just buy them off the market board if you don't, and you can also get them once a week through Wondrous Tales as well. Once you get a map and you decipher it, it'll show you a location as to where you need to go, but that location is like very zoomed in and just shown on the map, so you have to figure out yourself where it is. I recommend just using the Heavensware website, which will show you where all the maps could be, and it'll be pretty easy to figure out which one you have at that point. The other option is to definitely not use a Dalamud plugin that shows you exactly where your map is without having to go to any external website. Of course, if you do that, your social credit score goes down by 1 zillion, and you will have Yoshi P coming to your house immediately, so do not do that. Once you've actually found the location with whatever means you decide to use, you'll want to use the dig action, and then a treasure coffer should appear provided you're in the right spot. Once you open the coffer, a bunch of enemies are going to spawn. If you're doing Endwalker treasures, you're going to want to have some people with you. You can do it with just 2 people, but it takes tediously long amounts of time if you're just running 1 tank, 1 healer. So I recommend at least 3 people, and potentially more just to speed things up. In the footage you're seeing here, I was just soloing this because I'm a blue mage and I'm doing level 80 maps. Blue mage can solo old treasure maps, thanks to basic instinct and stuff. But if you're doing the new ones as just any normal old class, then you're obviously going to want to have some people with you. Now, the RNG factor of treasure maps here is the chance of this portal spawning. If it spawns, you're going to be able to go to the actual treasure map dungeon and get really good rewards if you're lucky, but sometimes the portal won't even spawn in the first place, and you just have to do another one. The worst part about doing treasure maps is doing like 10 in a row where no portals spawn. It's not common, but it happens, and it just sucks, man. Keep in mind, you also do get loot from the chest itself, even if a portal doesn't spawn, and sometimes you can get some pretty valuable items like that as well if you're lucky. So it's not like treasure maps are a huge waste if the portal doesn't spawn. You can still usually turn a profit on the map as long as you get somewhat lucky. Anyways, once you're actually in the portal, there's 2 different types of treasure map dungeons you can run into. The first of which is this roulette spin dungeon, which is literally just a roulette spin on if you get to stay or if you get kicked out. If you win the roulette 5 times in a row, you beat the dungeon. I have never been fortunate enough for this to happen, but I also haven't run that many of these, to be fair. If you land on something that isn't the pink portal looking thing, it'll spawn an enemy, you kill the enemy, and then you open a chest. The roulette wheel in these dungeons is the biggest fucking troll ever, I swear to god. It'll like stop on pink and then move the last second, or it'll stop on gold and move the last second to pink and then kick you out. It's tragic. The way this roulette wheel works is so trolly, man. This is the more simple of the 2 types of treasure maps, and it's the one I prefer less because there's a lot less in the realm of player choice, and the other types of treasure maps we're going to talk about now give you just a little bit more player choice, and it keeps them a little bit more interesting in my opinion, and I prefer to run these. In the second type of treasure map, you get to choose a path between left and right every time you clear out a room of ads. It's then going to be a 50-50 chance on if you get to progress into the next room. Even though this is kind of just like the illusion of choice because you only have 2 decisions, it's just a little bit more involved from the players, and it can be more fun, you know, when you're with your friends and you're like, alright guys, which way should we go? And then your friend tells you to go left, but then you get kicked out, so you get to yell at him and it's funny, you know? With the roulette wheel, you don't get as many moments as that, and it's not quite as fun in my opinion. You also get this fun little higher or lower game that can spawn in the middle of these, which just asks you, is the card going to be higher or lower? And every time you get it right, it doubles your rewards up to, I believe, 5 or 6 times. So it can be really fun just gambling over and over again, seeing if you can get all the rewards. So anyway, that's the rundown of treasure maps. That's how they work, what they do, the different types of them, whatever. But you may be wondering in the first place, why would I even bother going out of my way to find people to do this with, or to even do this outside of just for fun? Well, provided you get lucky enough with your treasure map RNG and the drops themselves, you could make ludicrous amounts of gil here, and I mean ludicrous. I spent probably about 2 hours with an 8-man group doing free-for-all treasure maps, and by the end of it, I made 10 million gil. Granted, I did get very lucky within the 2 hours we spent doing maps. We made it to the final floor of Excitatron 6000, and I was lucky enough to win the item that drops on the final floor, and if you get 3 of those, you can actually get a mount with it, and because of that, they sell for so much. The material sells for like 5 or 6 million on my server, and I don't really care about the mount right now anyway, so that's just free 5 mil in my pocket for like barely any of my time. The other drop I got that was worth like 5 million gil was this exciting dynamite minion. It's not even a very cool looking minion, so have fun capitalizing off the minion collectors who need to spend 5 mil on that. Now, if you're someone who wants to do treasure maps in Party Finder, you're probably going to be left with the question, which is better, your map, your loot, or free-for-all loot? Personally, I think free-for-all loot is the way to go. And the reason I say that is because if you do your map, your loot, and your maps don't lead to any portals, like let's say you just get so unlucky your maps don't even open any portals, then you're going to get fucked while you watch other people who get portals just take all the loot. Obviously this goes both ways though. You could get really lucky and have all of your maps lead to portals and then lead to insane returns if you're lucky. It really just depends on the type of risks you want to take. I think free-for-all tends to just lead to a more enjoyable experience because you get to roll on everything. There's always a level of excitement. Whereas for your map, your loot, when you're doing a friend's map or you're doing someone else in your party's map and you know you're not going to get anything from it, it's not exactly the most exciting thing ever. But hey, it's all going to be personal preference. But if you're brand new to treasure maps and you don't know what you should be doing, I personally recommend you just do free-for-all. I encourage you, if you're anything like me and you didn't try these at all, or you haven't tried these at all, to go give them a shot, because they're really easy, chill content to just do with a group of people. Especially if you've got like 2 or 3 friends and you guys don't really know what you want to do. Run some maps, man. 3 people is plenty. You can do 1 tank, 1 healer, 1 DPS. It's not going to be the most fast-paced map experience, like if you have 8 people, but it's certainly doable. And if you're really desperate, you can 2-man them with just a healer and a tank, but like I said earlier, it takes an excruciatingly long amount of time, and it's not very fun. Alternatively, like I mentioned earlier, if you're a blue mage, you can actually try out the level 70 and 80 maps completely by yourself, and the level 60 ones as well if you choose to. But the reason I recommend doing the level 80 maps, and maybe the level 70 ones, is because the materials you can actually get from them are still worth something and quite valuable even now because of certain glams. Specifically the Calvskin Riders glam, which you can get from the level 80 maps. You can get the materials to craft that from the level 80 maps. Those materials will sell for very good gil even now because the glam is pretty nice looking and a lot of people want it. So hey, if you've got your blue mage leveled and you don't really know what you want to do with it, then treasure maps are a good option. Good way to make some gil, and it's some fun solo content that you can do to just chill out and unwind. However you decide to experience treasure maps, there are really nice, just kind of fun, goofy content to hang out in that is very low stress, very low pressure, and a good way to just make some money or get some cool mounts, some cool glams. You can get like wings and minions and all sorts of different things from these maps that you might like. There's also some titles you can get if you're an achievement hunter from reaching the final stage like 20 times. If you make it to the very final floor of the dungeon 20 times, you get a title. And those are some of the rarest titles in the game just because of how hard it is to get to the final floor that many times, because it's just pure RNG. And also considering the fact that there's so many different treasure map dungeons across all the expansions, if you were to get the title from every single treasure map, like the 20 clears title from every single one, that'd be a lot of content to grind for a very long time. So hey, if you're looking for a grind in this game, that's a pretty decent option, I suppose, if you like subjecting yourself to RNG hell. All in all, though, doing treasure maps has been a nice change of pace for me after grinding the Savage tier for what felt like an eternity. I fucking hated P12S in Party Finder. That was absolutely miserable. And it's nice to just be doing casual shit in Party Finder where people can't really fuck it up because it's treasure maps. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I uploaded, so I just wanted to talk about something and cover something in the game that I've kind of alluded to even try until now, which is interesting. And I think, like I said earlier, a lot of that comes down to the A Realm Reborn maps giving me the impression that that's what treasure maps were. In other news, if you're wondering what's next for the channel, I'm currently in the process of getting my Morble mount from Blue Mage raiding, and I've been doing a whole bunch of Blue Mage Extreme Trials and Blue Mage raiding. I'm having a ton of fun with that, so I can't wait to cover that once I've finally finished getting the Morble. I want to talk about what it's like to get in 2023, because I know a lot of the Morble guides and a lot of just the Morble information is from quite a few years ago now, and some people might be wondering, you know, what that's like nowadays, so I'm excited to cover that when I get a chance, but I still need to clear a few of the fights, one of them being A8S, which is going to be a pain in the ass. Anyways, yeah, stay tuned for that. I'm very excited to talk about Blue Mage raiding because I'm very excited to get back to Blue Mage raiding as soon as I'm done with this video. Either way, give treasure maps a fair shot. You're probably going to have a lot more fun than you're expecting to. Also, let me know in the comments, between the door treasure maps where you get to pick a door, or the roulette spinning one, which one do you typically have more fun with? Do you like just watching the roulette spin and choose your fate, or do you like having that little bit of extra choice just to see what happens? Also, if you're a veteran treasure hunter and you've done a lot of this content, feel free to leave some tips to newer treasure hunters like me in the comments. I would love to hear from you. With that all being said, thank you for tuning into this video. Remember to drop a like, but only if you did, and subscribe to the BigBluePurple channel if you're not already. I make near-weekly Final Fantasy XIV uploads, and I talk about my experiences with the game, so if that sounds interesting to you, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, go run some treasure maps.